And with that, we are live for episode 110 of Trek Live. In this week's episode, we're going to be covering some short Trek action, as well as remembering a legend. But first, how you doing this morning, Bill?
I'm doing well. We weren't here last week, so I'm excited to be back, and we have new Trek to cover,
Yes.
which is always fun. Two short treks, like you said, and we definitely have to take a few minutes to talk about Rene Auberjonois, who passed away this week. Not every day that we lose a regular from the Star Trek universe, obviously. So yeah, it feels right to just kind of take a minute, pause, talk about it, talk about him, talk about Odo, and give him the respect he deserves. I mean, we did it for Aaron Eisenberg a few months ago. We've been losing too many, actually, and actually, just in this week, there was DC Fontana too.
Yep. Tough one.
Yeah, Marina Sirtis' husband, who isn't like a person's face that you would see and go, that's a Star Trek person, but it's been a rough week for the Star Trek family.
Yes.
A lot of losses. So, yeah, we're gonna talk about the new shorts, and we're gonna just kind of talk about what's been going on with, sadly, who we've been losing, and yeah, it should be. I don't want to say a good time. Half of it, hopefully, is good. At least a fun conversation, and we'll show some respect for the other half of it. So, yeah. So, how you been doing? How about your rewatch? I mean, it's been a couple weeks. So
yeah, my rewatch.
Where do we stand?
Let me grab some episodes here. I think I've watched 3 since we've last talked. Okay. If you guys remember, we didn't have a show last week. I was kind of on shore leave, so that gave me a good opportunity on the plane to kind of watch some Trek. So I started with episode 4, Mirror Mirror. And then went to 6, the Doomsday Machine. So in between that was the Apple. I guess very forgettable episode for me, at least. It was just kind of middle of the road.
Sure.
Mirror Mirror. I might want to maybe save for maybe an episode down the road to give you my full thoughts on it, because you guys know that I'm not the biggest fan of the Mirror Universe, but yeah, there's some few things that I kind of noticed, and maybe changed my
bigger conversation.
Yeah, bigger conversation, because I kind of maybe changed my perspective on it. The Doomsday Machine, it's a perfect hour of Trek.
It is. It's one of my favorites,
and
for sure.
That the Doomsday Machine is going to spark a whole nother conversation that you guys are going to hear. Again, I hate to cliffhang you guys, but what can I say more about the Doomsday Machine that hasn't already been said? But I think the 3 episodes, I definitely got a full range, a full gamut of, I guess, what I can expect to see in season 2. There's some little bit inconsistency, but there's also some great stuff. So,
yeah, the Apple is kind of like the lesser of the 3 episodes for sure, but it feels like the episode that kind of gave the red shirt joke.
Yeah.
It's red shirts drop like flies in the Apple for sure. In an interesting way, stepping on explosive rocks. It's struck by lightning.
Yeah, the flowers. Yeah,
the flowers. Yeah.
Yep. So.
And the Apple's an interesting Prime Directive episode too.
Yeah.
That's yet another example of in TOS them being on a planet of primitives, people who are not anywhere close to warp capable, and Kirk having to sort of decide how involved to get with sort of charting their next step in evolution, I guess, or societal evolution. So it's an interesting episode. There's a lot of Chekhov stuff in it. Having a flirtation, having a little aside with the yeoman on the away team, the landing party. I think it's entertaining, but I think it's kind of a mess, and it's kind of ridiculous. I don't know that it's one of the better aged episodes of TOS, but I don't find it boring. I'll give it that. But the Doomsday Machine for sure is an episode that I tend to go to often as like if you want to introduce somebody to Star Trek kind of thing.
Yeah.
The Doomsday Machine is a pretty good way to go. I think it has all of, particularly for TOS, it's got Kirk being heroic and in command and perfectly capable and showcasing his best qualities and traits. I think Nimoy's great as Spock on the bridge dealing with Commodore Decker. I think it's Nimoy at his best. I think Scotty is at his best. He's at his most heroic, fixing things at the last second.
Yeah.
Jeffrey's tube time.
Mr. Scott.
Yes, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
The stuff at the end of that episode is so it's just good filmmaking. It's really tense. It's kind of timelessly executed. It just flat out works, and
Yeah.
I think it's some of Star Trek's best stuff. So I'm glad that one landed for you. I'm glad it still holds up.
Yep.
And yeah, it's one that it's one of those episodes that I can throw in anytime, and I never get bored with it.
No.
If I had to, I know people who know me know that I'm not very good at like randomly picking episodes and having like quick little asides and just randomly bouncing around the timeline.
Unless it's for Trek After Dark, so.
Unless it's for Trek After Dark, I do that.
Yeah.
For special occasions,
Yeah.
I'll do it. But Doomsday Machine's an episode that I can do that with pretty easily. I can, if I'm feeling just like I need to kill an hour for Trek,
Yeah.
like sitting on a plane and I just want to watch a random episode, Doomsday Machine's always at the very top of that list.
Yep.
Easy ones to go to.
Yep. What about you? How's your rewatch going?
It's going. I watched 2 last night.
Okay.
2 really good ones too. I really love from season 3 of TNG. The Survivors, which I think is one of the more underrated. Maybe an example of an episode that I think I probably love more than the average, maybe more than the perception.
Yeah.
Would grant it, I guess.
Yeah.
I think the guest stars are really, really strong there. I love the twist. I love the last scenes where Kevin Uxbridge, the not human alien, kind of reveals what he did and what happened, and you get the full story. I think there's a lot of power there that I just love Picard kind of being speechless and not even knowing how to respond to this alien being who wiped out an entire species for killing his wife, basically.
Mm.
And Picard, we have no law to fit your crime. He has a line, something like that, and he just has to let him go. There's nothing they can do. I love that episode. I think there's cool location photography. Always good to see them outside in the sun. Some of that in that episode. Some witty dialogue with Worf talking to the old couple. Good tea, nice house, stuff like that. It really works. So I love that episode, and I really love Who Watches the Watchers. Who Watches the Watchers is another Prime Directive episode, dealing with a proto-Vulcan society. There's a Starfleet research team studying them. There's an accident, and one thing leads to another, and they have to beam somebody up from the alien species to save their life. And guy wakes up, sees Picard, thinks Picard's God, and shenanigans ensue with unraveling the species development and really changing the course of where they're heading as a culture. And really great dialogue in it. Really another one with really great location photography at Vasquez Rocks.
Yes.
It's really, really cool to see them outside in big space, like, wide shots. It really makes it feel big. Getting outside of that Planet Hell set that they spend so much time in for like going down to planets. Really, really great episode with big questions, challenging questions. It's a classic. I think one of TNG's best episodes. Yeah. So I'm happy with where I am. I'm moving, like I keep saying, more slowly than I'm used to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of rewatching Star Wars right now, trying to get ready for the new movie.
Yep.
So that's taken some of my time, but definitely watched 2 classics last night. So yeah, loving season 3.
Yeah, two great episodes in TOG, in my opinion. I'm kind of on the same boat as you. I kind of like the Survivors. Both episodes have great locations, like you said. They do feel
Yeah.
big. In the Survivors, I feel like it's so funny. Like it's like this decimated planet, and then there's this square with this green patch of
Yes.
grass, and this like a weird looking architecture house. It feels really alien
Yes.
to me, and yeah, I do like it. And then the Survivor or Who Watches the Watchers is just another classic. Um, that's good. Which I think
Unusual. Yeah. Go ahead.
again, I'm sure this probably happens a lot. You know, these teams of Starfleet people studying pre-warp cultures. You know, sometimes there's kind of an accident or something happens, so it's kind of nice to see that not every mission goes according to plan. So
Yes, exactly.
which makes good for
yeah,
TV, which makes
right.
good TV. Yeah. So
Absolutely. Yeah, it's first of all, it's interesting to see two episodes in a row where they're outside. Like it's so rare to see
two
back
locations.
in the
Yeah.
day. Two location shows in a row.
Yeah.
I really do think that always gives these episodes a little extra juice, or a little extra juice of reality. Yeah. So, the imagery that you were kind of talking about with the Survivors is definitely, I think, a tangible quality that keeps it high on my list. I really do think like the imagery of the decimated planet surface with this little tiny patch of land that's untouched. Like it's just cool. It's just it's an image that it always sticks with me. And when I think of the Survivors, I think of images like that, like the big mad painting of the dead planet with just the one little patch, and even the shot like on the view screen when they're scanning the surface, and there's like this little perfect square of green surrounded by nothing but dead land. There's just stuff that's stuck with me since I was a kid that I always enjoy going back to that one. It's heavy, it's really dramatic by the end, and almost like a Twilight Zone-y kind of twist, which I really love. So it's a definite favorite of mine. It's one that I like seeing people talk about because I don't think it's typically credited as like this is a classic episode. Even like Who Watches the Watchers, even I think it's more play as like this is upper tier Star Trek than the Survivors.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what people have to say about the Survivors since I feel so strongly about it. And it's not, I don't think people dislike it in large part, but it's one of those episodes that kind of I think typically finds its way to like that middle of the pack kind of territory that like respected. It's good Trek, but isn't usually counted as one of the best.
Yeah,
where I kind of do. So yeah, interesting episode.
Yep. Shall we jump into the topic at hand?
Yeah. I think we got two shorts to cover.
Yep.
Both pretty short, pretty thin. I think, but interesting things to talk about with both of them. Which one did you watch first?
I watched The Girl Who Made the Stars first because it just looked, I don't know, it just looked more interesting. So yeah, what about you?
I watched If Raymond Dot first, just because it was like first on my menu. But let's talk about The Girl Who Made the Stars. I'm curious.
Okay.
What were your overall takeaways? What did you think?
I loved it. So you guys know, I got a degree. Technically, I probably said this a couple times, but it's multimedia.
Not in a while.
And animation. So I got the multimedia side with the graphics and all the design stuff, but then animation specifically. So I love animation. So I was super excited for these short treks to come out. Both were great. But yeah, the Girl Who Made the Stars, I loved it. I thought it was a good, it was a fun time. Again, I think this really, these two even kind of show that, again, this short treks is about trying things, two different styles of animation. So they're testing that out. They're testing out, I mean, we haven't seen, animation and Trek put together in, a long time. So, but yeah, I loved it. I love both. I don't want to get into it yet, but yeah. What about you? First thoughts.
The Girl Who Made the Stars, I thought was good. I thought the animation was beautiful. I thought the score was beautiful.
Yeah.
I think the production side of things was really really great. I think the story was nice. I think it was nice. It was just nice. Is
Okay.
the word that comes to mind for me. Like I didn't um I
I
wasn't blown away because it's not. I didn't feel like it was a story that I needed
yeah.
by any means. Like it's an expansion on a piece of dialogue or from a log from Burnham's. Like it's if you go back to the very very beginning of Brothers, she talks about the girl who made the stars as like a
Hmm.
story she heard as a kid. So it's an expansion on that, which is cool. Like you said, the Short Trek's sort of mission seems to be like being experimental, playing with tone, playing
Yeah.
with different storytelling styles, going down rabbit holes that we wouldn't necessarily get in traditional Star Trek. Um, so I love that it exists. I enjoyed it.
I think I going into it I had zero expectations, and I think
Yeah,
I had to kind of put
me
those
too. To be
aside
honest.
because I have such ridiculously high expectations for the short treks after Ask Not and just Discovery in general, and in this kind of
Mm-hmm.
new um, short trek formula that they're kind of using right now. So I tried to just put my expectations aside and just like I just watched it and
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's I think the best things about it are the animation, the visuals, and the music. I think they're both uh, really really strong. I think it's really strong work, and it
Yeah.
makes me confident in their interest in going down the animation
Yeah.
track. I think what we're getting with like Lower Decks, for example, is gonna be a very different style of animation, very different kind of show
Yeah.
than what we saw in probably either one of these two shorts. So, but I think the way that they're kind of going with a lot of content, this makes me open minded to the idea of having animation be a part of Star Trek moving forward. I think
Yeah.
they've shown that they can walk and chew gum at the same
Yeah.
time. They can do all these different things,
Yeah.
and yeah, I love the fact that Star Trek is big enough right now to like there's enough of it and there's enough of an operation going that they can latch onto a little piece of dialogue in a log and kind of take it and run and create this little aside
Hmm.
um, to just kind of do it. I
Yeah.
don't know how much it adds to anything. Like it doesn't change or really add any flavor to Discovery or the Burnham character, really. But that's not. I'm not saying that as a negative. I'm impressed by the fact that they are able to allocate resources and production time to things that are sort of just experiments
Yeah.
and just it seems at least it seems to be just kind of an exercise and maybe it's because the last season the Harry Mudd short didn't really come into play too much with
No.
at all, really, with what we saw later on. But the three of the four shorts from last season um, factored into Discovery a good bit going into season 2 and beyond. Even Calypso, I think, is
It's
foreshadowing
going
stuff we
to.
haven't
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
seen
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think my brain coming into this season was sort of like, okay, well, what are they trying to set up with these shorts? Are there things that they're kind of teeing up with these
Okay.
things?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're not necessarily doing that this time around. I feel like, and um, that's an interesting choice, I guess.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's they're kind of wading into the animation water. They're testing
Yeah,
the waters with this animation. So I'm kind of glad they dropped these two. Just because I would be a little bit more nervous going into an animated series that they're going to drop without any, with a trailer, obviously. But I'm glad that they kind of dropped these. I'm not sure what the overall impressions are of these two episodes. I
yeah. I
guess I'll
haven't
call them
quite gathered yet.
episodes, but I guess we'll see as time and we talk to people and hear from you know everyone. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I haven't seen enough, to be honest, on social media to get a feel for that either. To
yeah,
know like what are people largely taking away from these.
hmm,
I haven't posted polls yet, which I'll do as
yeah,
soon as this is over. I'm curious to see what people have to say.
yeah,
Uh, So what about Ephraim and Dot as the second of the
Um,
two?
I got kind of like a a Pixar short type of thing.
Hmm.
You watch a
Very
Pixar
much so.
film and then you have these the old man in the park, chess, or
Yeah,
whatever your favorite Pixar
Pixar short.
short is. But I
Yeah.
got that kind of feeling. I like the feel of the animation. I think the it's a little bit more cute, right? The
Hmm.
animation style is a little bit more cute. They got really cute with jumping through the most recognizable episodes. Um, I forget all of the episodes that they kind of mentioned, but there was
Hmm.
definitely a lot of classic TOS episodes in there that are um, good,
Being
bad,
referenced.
yeah, being referenced. Yeah, it kind of made me feel a little bit, actually, the animated series esque kind of
It did.
style animation. So I like to see that kind of retro. But yeah, if I had to, put it in one word in one box, it was cute.
That's exactly what I
Yeah,
said when it.
yeah,
I watched it with my brother,
yeah,
and as soon as it ended, I said, "Oh, that was cute."
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's really what it is. It's just innocent, and it does harken back. I think it does feel like visually and old school animated Star Trek, the TAS.
yeah,
Certainly more so than the Girl Who Made the Stars.
yeah,
Um, but I thought it was, it's certainly, people like me, people who, anybody who's watching Trek Live, I'm sure, or really anybody who's probably watching the short treks, to be honest with you, if they're subscribed to CBS All Access and going out of their way to watch these things, uh, doing things like they were doing in the Frame and Dot, and you know, referencing Space Seed and the Naked Time and Doomsday Machine,
yeah,
is easy fodder for people like us. It's cool to see.
yeah.
It's canon porn. Uh,
Yes.
it's uh, it's satisfying to see old Trek reference, especially from TOS. It's always a neat thing to see. So, um, it feels it's cute.
Yeah.
Cute is the it's very light. It's neither one of them I think is very. I actually think the Girl Who Made the Stars is probably has more substance, more depth,
Yeah.
a little bit more to chew on. Like there's more to take away from it,
Yeah.
as this like sort of mythical, parable, that has a message. And a frame and dot is certainly more kind of irreverent and just kind of beat beat beat, and then we're out,
Yeah.
with not much to say per se. Um, but it's certainly, it kept me engaged, very engaged, just kind of watching for the references and seeing where they were going.
Yeah.
Um, it was inventive and creative. Um, of course, if the one thing I have seen on Twitter is people noticing little mistakes in it, like um, they eventually get to. Spoiler alert! They eventually get to like the movie Enterprise,
Yeah.
from the Wrath of Khan and the Search for Spock.
Yeah.
Uh, References to those things, and they have an A on the ship. And for a lot of people, that's like a pull my hair out. Like, how can they miss this? Like, how can you mess that up?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But it's a short, and it's an interesting, cute little aside. I'm not getting bent out of shape about little things like that, but go
That
ahead.
was
What were
gonna
you gonna
bring. I was gonna. That was gonna bring up my next question. Uh,
say?
do you? And this might be maybe a little bit more grandiose and maybe for
Mm-hmm.
another time, but do you consider short treks canon?
Uh, that's a
Because
good question.
the mistake, yeah, I noticed it too. Um, so I mean, there's always been mistakes in track. But
Yes.
again, um, sorry, back to the
Do,
question.
do, do I consider them part of the continuity of the series? I mean, I guess.
Yeah,
To be honest with you, it's not. It's going to be something. I think they're going to be something that'll be easy for me to kind of shed, because I don't know that when I do my, like when I'm watching it in bulk, I don't see myself
rewatching them.
integrating. Yeah, like putting
Yeah,
them in place, being like, this is part of the saga. This is part of the story. They're to me, I choose to look at them more like they're interesting little asides, and they're like footnote kind of things. They're extensions,
Like special
especially to be
features.
honest. Now, last season,
That's what I was,
they're
yeah,
harder to do.
yeah,
It's harder to do that. You kind of have to watch Runaway in between seasons 1 and 2, I guess, because there are real references to that character that come later. I
yeah.
mean, if you want to like connect the dots and close gaps, it makes sense to kind of weave that into your watch timeline. Um, but like some of them this year, like the Trouble with Edward, I think there are continuity issues there that make me want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Make me want to like assume that these are interesting asides that don't necessarily count
Yeah.
in the continuity. But I mean, it is what it is. I have an easy time kind of shelving the shorts as interesting asides and not getting too worked up about how accurate are they, how much damage or how much how much do they add to the timeline, how much damage do they do to the timeline. Like if they make mistakes, if they're not quite fitting perfectly, I'm choosing not to look too much into it.
Yeah. Yeah, same here. I mean, the first short trek season, if you want to call it, I was like, ready to say, yeah, that could be considered canon because it does have ties to the series. But this season, I guess in season 2, short trek, it just seems a lot more different. And I guess the short trek, model has always been kind of like a sandbox. You can do whatever you want, I guess, when I look at it. So. Which will probably be ever changing, but yeah, I don't consider them canon really. I just kind of consider them, if you get like special features on a Blu-ray or deleted scenes, stuff like that. That's what I kind of take that.
They're equivalent to those kinds of things.
Yeah. So
deleted scene is a good comp. Like if you go back, there are deleted scenes from like old school stuff. I can't pull examples directly out of my head, but I know there are deleted scenes that were cut from like earlier Star Trek that would contradict things that they ended up doing later. If you watch the deleted scenes, you have to you have to sort of take them with a grain of salt if you're trying to connect the dots. If one of the things you like to do is have the continuity feel cohesive and like a straight line as much as possible, it gets dicey if that's your game and you like to try to do that with including certain things. And I view these sort of like novels, like comics, like deleted scenes, like extras, that when they fit, when there are things about them that fit and they enhance the continuity and the timeline, that's nice, that's cool, I'll have it in my head. But when they don't, I can that didn't happen.
That's a deleted scene.
Yep. That didn't really,
just like it makes it really easy.
Yes. I don't have to do too much headcanon stuff. Like I would for like an episode of Discovery doing something that would like throw a curveball in something. That's a harder thing to ignore. But that's kind of how I'm choosing to look at it. But it's been an interesting journey already with that. Like it's been an up and down kind of thing where, like you said, last season it felt sort of essential. Maybe not right away, but as season 2 of Discovery kind of got going, and by the time it was over, you look back at the shorts and go, man, they actually were kind of critical. And they really do kind of count. And then this season, unless we get a Pike show, which I hope we still do, the Q&A and Ask Not could both factor into like what we ultimately get in a Pike kind of show. There might be references there that would lead into a larger story. But the animateds and the Trouble with Edward, I think, barring something unexpected and different than what we see coming, I think it's maybe who knows if they'll factor into anything we see ever again.
What was the cadet short?
That was Ask Not.
Ask Not.
Yes.
Okay.
The cadet was with Pike.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is a bit of a tangent, but I had to get it out. If there were to be a Pike show, I feel like it would not take place on the Enterprise.
Really?
There's two options I see. On the Enterprise, out doing you know, when they were
Enterprise
at
stuff.
the 5-year mission before, you know, the war was
Sure.
going on.
Hmm.
The thing I have an issue with is, you know, the crew is spread out. You know, who's the actor that plays Spock? I'm blanking.
Ethan Peck.
Ethan Peck. Ethan Peck's on Discovery right now. That's all Discovery stuff.
Mm-mm.
He's not.
No,
No, he's on. He stayed behind.
he's
You're
on the
right.
Enterprise, right?
Okay, so I guess it could be 5-year mission stuff, but
It could be.
it could be cadets too. I don't know.
It could be. There's all kinds of things they could do. I think having it be set, an interesting choice that I hadn't really given it much thought is like post command Pike, and that would maybe kind of even fit even better with their sort of desire to do unexpected things and not just set, you know, these are our crew on a ship out there doing Star Trek stuff. Like
Yeah.
an interesting way to like put a spin on that and do a Pike show would be like, okay, let's do Pike after he's off the Enterprise and what's he doing before, like what leads up to his accident and where's his head at after he gets off the ship and he's kind of just waiting for this accident to happen, and he's dealing with cadets and he's training people. Like that's an interesting
Yeah.
different way to maybe do a Pike show.
Again, but I didn't see him as the tired Pike we see him in.
That's true.
You know, where no man
Discovery.
is gone. Yeah. So in Discovery, he seems full of life and happy and believes in the Starfleet way. But yeah, I guess let's reel this back a little bit.
Yeah.
Any final things on the short trek before we short treks, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I enjoyed them both. Like you said, I think it gives me some confidence moving forward about the idea of playing in the animation arena. I probably I kind of go back and forth on it. I feel like the one that itches my Star Trek itch a little bit more is A Frame to Dot, just because it's doing Star Trek stuff and it's playing in the Star Trek continuity and stuff. But I'm tempted to say the better of the two is the girl who made the stars, like just the better production, the more impressively mounted piece of television is probably that one. But I did enjoy them both. I'm glad they both exist, and I'm impressed that both of them exist because they're both so different and such kind of bold choices. I guess my question to you would be, of course, and last thoughts, but which one did you prefer? Which animation style did you?
I prefer the girl who made the stars for both of those questions. I think.
Okay.
I like the animation style more. It's a little bit more realistic. I think it kind of fits in with the time. A little bit. I just want to get a little bit deeper on the episode. Sure. Spoiler alert! It's about the darkness and how they're scared of the darkness.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a shot in the dark, I guess, for today, right? It's kind of the Starfleet principle to explore the unknown, and to me, darkness is unknown. So
yes,
it just feels so Star Trek that they're exploring the stars and taking that for instead of like darkness, like I feel like the unknown and
it's the unknown. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's about not being afraid of pushing beyond what you can see, like what's right in front of you, and having that like curiosity to want to explore and discover new things. So yeah, you're right. I mean, to its core, the DNA of it is Star Trek. It sort of is a parable about what makes us do what Star Trek is telling us we should be doing. Like what's the building block behind us wanting to push out into space or into the unknown. And Burnham's character, you just probably, I think, made me like the girl who made the stars even more.
Okay.
Because it's like Burnham's character is sort of defined by that curiosity and that wanting to learn and discover things. Like and having this story be such like an obviously a big thing in her head, something that stuck with her that her dad told her when she was a young kid. It makes sense. This is something that's driven her, and it made an impact on her as a kid, and maybe set her on her path. And it adds up to the character that we see in the series.
Yeah.
So I think you made me just realize that it's maybe a better piece of character development for Michael Burnham than I would have given it credit for, and it's a better,
or
it's a
even
better thing
or
than I
even
even
for
thought.
us, like we got to remember
It
that
is.
we got to
It's more meta.
remember
Yeah.
we can't be as scared of the unknown. We got to explore and go where no man or woman or anyone has gone before.
Anyone
So
where no one has gone before.
yeah,
It's true. It's very, very true. It is.
Yeah.
It is 100%. I take back everything I said about it not being relevant and just kind of being there. It's. You're right. It is very relevant, and it speaks to us. It speaks to the Burnham character.
Burnham
It
character,
does it
yeah.
all at once.
Yep.
So really, really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I want to go back and watch it again, like as soon as this is over.
Just so you have to, because then you see a whole different side of it. So
I think I would.
yep. Yes. I guess. I don't want to say move on to a more sad moment. I would like to celebrate kind of what we're going to talk about next.
Sure. Yeah.
And not make it kind of sad, because it's easy. I've kind of felt sad a little bit all week, so I want to celebrate and kind of talk about the good moments. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Rene Auberjonois, one of the better actors to ever be on Star Trek. This is a guy who has had a long career. Was in Robert Altman movies, MASH, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, like really classic stuff. Long before his days on Star Trek. But this is a Star Trek YouTube channel, so it's focused on Odo and his time on Deep Space Nine, and certainly where I got introduced to him.
And wasn't he in 6 too?
He was in 6.
Yeah.
He's a Starfleet security guy.
Yeah.
Security official who's plotting to rescue Kirk and McCoy from the Klingons.
Yeah.
He wants to clean their chronometers.
Yeah. He delivers a great line. Cool. Yeah.
It's really cool. So he's got a couple different roles in Star Trek, but the thing that I find the most impressive with him is he's first of all, Odo is one of those characters that is in the vein of like Spock, Data, 7 of 9. He's one of these characters that's really about like discovering yourself.
Yes.
He's like a lost soul who doesn't really even know who he is and has to kind of find his own way and define his own existence, really, which is a sort of like a staple in Star Trek. It's one of those things that has to sort of be there to make it track. And Odo is that character for Deep Space Nine. But the thing that's always impressed me the most with Rene Auberjonois is, he's a guy. Him and LeVar Burton, I think, both. LeVar Burton is asked to act without his eyes, as Geordi, and Rene Auberjonois wears prosthetics on his face that literally takes away his ability to express anything, like through traditional like facial expressions that are designed to kind of communicate feeling, thinking, and how we're responding to things. He wears a mask that completely like washes away any ability to do any of that.
He's Doug Jones before Doug Jones.
He is.
Yes.
Yeah. It's very similar.
Yeah.
Doug Jones also obviously is what he can do with his more traditional face.
Yeah.
But Odo is such an emotional character and is
Yes.
dealing with such deep feelings all the time, and he's Auberjonois has to communicate all of those things without traditional means. He uses his eyes, but aside from that, there's not much else going on in his face.
Yeah.
It's all his body posture. It's his tone of voice. He's communicating everything without the use of his facial expressions, which is a huge challenge. And, I don't think just any Joe actor
No.
is going to be capable of doing that.
You got to be pretty talented.
Yeah. And he
do
did.
that
And
for
I
7 seasons.
Yeah, with a real arc. Like, and he's not a character that is easily defined. I think as he's grumpy, he's curmudgeon-y.
Yeah.
He's got those traits. He's certainly got things you can define him with. He does change over time. His relationship to his castmates, the other characters on the show, changes over time.
Mm-hmm.
This is a character that evolves and changes and is deeply felt. Like it's a really thick character with a lot of substance. And he really does fit beautifully with that run of characters in all the shows that is the sort of the mirror for anybody out there who's watching these shows that is sort of struggling with who am I? Like what kind of a person am I going to be? You know, where do I fit in? And I think
identity.
Yeah, the questions of identity and where do I belong? Which kind of people do I fit in with, and how do I express myself? Like these are such, basic questions that Star Trek tackles all the time in its own different ways with each iteration, each show, and some of the different flavors of each show are kind of defined by the different characters who sort of pose those questions, whether it's Spock, Data, Odo, Seven of Nine, the Doctor,
Spock,
Paul, Spock being the classic, example of it, Michael Burnham. They all are dealing with these things, and Odo gives Deep Space Nine a lot of its personality, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you said it best. I mean, it's such been a long list of great actors and great characters that are very similar, but he definitely brought his own stuff to the table to kind of add to this long lineage of characters that were outsiders, but also again, like you said, that identity crisis that I think we can kind of all relate to somehow. So
the other thing real quick that I think is kind of unique to that character that posed a challenge for the show and posed a challenge for that actor too is early in Deep Space Nine, that character sort of defined by, I don't know my own people, I'm like a one-off, I'm a complete loner, there's nobody out here like me. The character's so sort of defined by that early on, and that's such his thing that I feel like, especially back then, 25 years ago, almost 30 years ago, the choice at the beginning of season 3, fairly early on in the show, to reveal that to take that away, to take away that defining trait and reallocate it and completely redo it, and not make it about he trying to find his people and trying to locate more like him, but to reckon with the fact that his people are not are not gonna, it's not gonna be a happy reunion.
No,
it's not an easy reunion. It's not a, oh look, there, we found them and that's it. Like they're the antagonist for the rest of the show. I think that was a bold choice for the series and presented a challenge for the actor Auberjonois to sort of redirect the character and keep it fresh and interesting and give him a whole new set of things to play. We have Stress-Free K in the chat.
Yes, welcome.
Welcome. Does Odo's race pop up in any of the other series? There are changeling types in other shows.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's ever...
The novels, I think, probably explore a little bit more. But yeah, there's types of species like that, I believe.
Yeah, I think back to like Star Trek 6, the Iman character who she played on the Rura Penthe is obviously like a changeling who can change her form. But I think the assumption that Deep Space Nine is asking us to take is that, while other species can do that, maybe like there are other things out there that can do that, the changelings are unique to Deep Space Nine and coming from the Gamma Quadrant and the far reaches of the Gamma Quadrant that we can only access through this wormhole. Like I think, although the whole idea of that story is, the changelings sent out
these seeds that are a select few. It's not like they're out there like a whole population. These are like a select few in different quadrants of the galaxy.
They're spread throughout the galaxy. So maybe some of them may be. The Suliban from Enterprise. There are definitely species who kind of play with that same idea, where they can change their form and alter their appearance. But I choose to most of the time think of it like these are other species that have different traits that can do it differently. But I love the idea that maybe some of the people that we come across over the other shows that can seem to do that, maybe they are a changeling. Some of those other changelings besides Odo who were thrown out by the changelings in the Gamma Quadrant. Because I love that idea that there are others out there. And what happened to them? But I assume I'm not somebody with. We would need Trekkie Rob here maybe for more deep knowledge of the novels. But I'm sure there are novels. That
Yeah.
who really might know more about like references in some of the novels to some of those kinds of things. Like maybe some of those characters are, maybe they are changing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Another thing, just back to Renee, and maybe
Mhm.
just about the character in general. I think he just has such a rapport with all the cast members on the show.
Yeah,
Quark, especially,
yeah,
I love that relationship as well. I had to mention
it's
that.
great.
So,
Hmm.
um, yeah,
And I like going to that idea, that the different relationships. Certainly with Kira, there's a lot of
yeah,
depth there that plays out over time. There's seeds of that relationship's evolution planted in the first season, the second season. That's a long building thing. I think
yeah,
that when you know where it's going and you start the show again, in your case, hopefully soonish, when you get to Deep Space Nine, watching for that relationship to evolve in the early stages and looking for the little hints
the
is one
slow
of the more
burns.
interesting things to do. It's a
Yeah,
very good slow burn,
yeah,
similar to the Tom Paris and B'Elanna
Balana.
Torres stuff in Voyager. You can see seeds of it early, and you can see in Rene Auberjonois' performance, especially, I think early on, like little things he does, little reactions he has to her that really set the scene for what's going to happen. But the Quark stuff, I saw on Twitter people, obviously talking about their favorite Odo stuff, their favorite moments, and like he's got great episodes. There are episodes that really stand out for him, but a lot of my favorite Odo stuff comes from episodes that I probably couldn't even name here. I couldn't tell you like which episode it came from, but like little aside scenes where maybe in the teaser they open in Quark's bar and Quark's sitting at Odo's sitting at the bar just needling Quark about this or that. Like,
Yeah,
and you may never hardly even see those two characters again over the course of the episode, but they do that a lot. They pop in um, to those two characters, kind of having a back and forth, especially early in the show. And some of those scenes are my favorite things about his character. Um, and that relationship too, I think, is an interesting thing to watch evolve over the show. Quark and Odo.
yeah.
It was a difficult character to play and make endearing because his job was so overwhelming given all the different stations. Yeah, he had a very difficult
Yeah,
he's all business, and that's a station with a lot of scum and villainy, to quote the other sci-fi series. I just watched Star Wars and they used that talking about Mos Eisley, but Deep Space Nine's kind of the same way. There's a lot of shady characters coming on Deep Space Nine, and I think that forces Odo to kind of be a tough guy. I think he's inherently tough. I think his background and where he came from is largely why he is the way he is, and
because
you can easily see. But his job makes him stay that way. I think it makes it difficult for him to change. He has to be pessimistic and cynical and assume the worst of people because of the kind of job he's in.
he was
It's a
there
challenge for him.
during the occupation, correct?
Yes, yeah, and
So I mean,
that's the other thing.
that's another side of it too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one of the more fascinating things about Odo, and they're great episodes of the show that sort of play with this idea where they kind of do flashbacks or go back in time, and you see Odo working with Gul Dukat when he's running the station. He's is he a collaborator? Is he?
yeah.
He's like it's this moral gray area where he's trying
He's
to
Odo.
walk that fine line. He's Odo.
Yeah,
He's not loyal to anybody. He's about justice and
he's loyal to justice.
he's loyal to justice. He's completely
Yeah,
he's trying to do the right thing, whether he's working for Starfleet or the Cardassians, and he's been able to do both, and that's it makes him a challenging character. That there's a lot of friction that kind of bubbles to the surface on occasion between him and Kira that they have to get over and come to terms with. And episodes like one of my favorite Deep Space Nine episodes is Necessary Evil from the second season that deals with that. It's flashing back to Odo's time with when Kira's on the other side of it. She's a resistance fighter. Dukat's running the show, and it's a Cardassian station, and he's still doing kind of the same kind of job he's doing now. He's the sheriff on the station.
yep.
So it's there's a lot of interesting stuff with his character that makes him one of the best, and I think that's largely due to the actor. I think Rene Auberjonois, like I said at the very beginning, he's one of the I think he's truly one of the best actors that's ever been on any of these shows.
Yes.
Just objectively speaking, the like Jim Morehouse over at Trek Ranks has a great page where he ranks the characters, and one of the like little subsets he has in there is he gives each actor a score from 1 to 10. I honestly don't know. I don't remember like what he gave Rene Auberjonois for his performance as Odo, but for me, that's if I was going to try to do something like that, that would be very close to the top of the chart for me. I think his performance is consistently excellent and is integral to why the character's successful.
Yeah, let me just.
You looking it up?
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up here.
Yeah. Yeah, Star 3K. He saw through Dukat. He was able to operate with Dukat in a way. He knew what Dukat was about. He knew Odo is one of those guys that can play the game. Like he can operate under different styles, different types of leadership. He's one of those guys that, in jobs now, like if you think about people in your job now, I'm sure there are people who, have an easier time surviving changes at the top. Guys come in and people come in at the top and, kind of change the culture, change the style of the whole place, and everything kind of shifts. There's some people can just kind of like fold into that and keep things consistent and stay in good standing. And Odo is like the classic guy who, regardless of who's running the show, he's gonna be safe.
Odo is 20. According to Trek Ranks.
Interesting. I mean, 20. I'm sure if you look at the characters who are above that, there's
some heavy hitters.
Yeah, and that's the thing with. That's why I have a hard time doing that. He has my undying respect for doing that, and putting it out there, because it's so hard. I sit here and say he's one of my favorite characters, one of my favorite actors, but ask me to rank him, I don't know where I'd put him because there's so many I love.
Yeah.
But all that stuff aside, the important thing to take away is, from I think our opinion here and what we're trying to say is, amazing actor, amazing performance. Yeah, how many are there, Dan?
40. Let's see here. 37.
20 out of 37.
But this is no, sorry, 42.
42.
But this is
okay.
I think he defines it as in the title credits.
They have to be in the opening credits.
The opening
I don't
credits.
think Discovery, right?
No Discovery. I don't
no
see
Discovery
any
yet.
Discovery.
So that number's
So
TOS through Enterprise.
yes.
So 20 out of 42, you said? No. How many did you say?
Sorry, let me check again. 42. Yes, you're correct.
42. 20 out of 42.
Crusher is 42. Yes. Wesley.
Okay. Wesley Crusher.
Yeah.
So we give a little shout out to our buddy Jim there.
Yeah.
Go check out Trek Ranks and look for the character ranks page. You won't regret it. It's great.
Yeah.
And I wish I could do it, but it's something I've tried and swung and missed. Trying to get to a point where I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
But Odo's amazing. Rene Auberjonois, the other people we lost this week, DC Fontana, hugely important person in Star Trek's history, shaping Spock, shaping TOS, wrote some of the classic episodes.
Pioneer in the writer's room.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. She's like, I heard one of the podcasts I listened to this week. I think it was Mission Log. It was a supplemental with Rod Roddenberry, and they were talking about, like, if you think back and you like read anything about the making of TOS, it's like these 50-something, 60-something men, Gene Roddenberry, Gene Kuhn, Bob Justman wasn't that old, but these guys who are like old boys club kind of guys, who are like ex-military kind of people, like served in World War II kind of guys, and like 20-something DC Fontana, who's like completely bringing the heart to the show.
Yeah.
And bringing all the real human stuff that I think ended up becoming the most quintessentially Star Trek stuff. What makes it endearing over time and keeps it consistent over all the shows. She really did develop the Vulcan culture and Spock's backstory. She wrote Journey to Babel. She wrote The Side of Paradise. Just a critically important person in Star Trek's history. She was hugely important in the development of TNG.
Yes.
She was one of the people who like got that show off the ground and put the skeleton together for like Encounter at Farpoint, and the character biographies and this the Bible of the show, her and David Gerrold. So she's touched a lot of Star Trek and is a huge loss as well. Somebody who's very active, who used to be very active. You'd see her in documentaries like Chaos on the Bridge and the bonus features on the TOS DVDs and Blu-rays, the Roddenberry Vault, that Blu-ray that came out about the making of the show.
Mhm.
She's all over that stuff, telling stories. She's on podcasts. If you look back on Trek Files with Larry Nemechek, and
Yeah.
she's appeared on all kinds of shows that you get a lot of Trek history from her. So that's a huge loss as well. So tough week for Star Trek.
Yep.
On that level.
Yeah, let's just make it a quick, maybe one Star Trek content thing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Trek Ranks, the most recent
Yeah,
one.
Trek Ranks for sure. I recorded it like a month ago. It was our top 5 meta references in Star Trek, self-aware kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of fun to record, very difficult to prep for. I had I think he said it was my 7th time on the show, and each one of those other shows, I feel like I could pretty quickly like come up with my list. It was an easy, like, rattle it around in my head for a couple of days, and I felt good about it. This one, it took a long time, and I needed help. I talked to people in my life around me. I ran stuff by Dan beforehand. I talked to my dad and my brother and other people. I needed help with this one, but from what I hear, it turned out pretty well. It sounds like it's a good show. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, definitely check that out. It was me and Ross, who TEH Borg on Twitter, who's come to our streams many times, actually.
Yep.
Particularly early on. He was at if you go back and you watch our like 1st, 2nd, 3rd episodes in the chat, you'll see him in there. And now he's a co-host of Snap Track, which is a great show.
Yep.
He's a great Star Trek personality, great guy on Twitter. Did a great job on the show too. And both guys, like, that was the thing. I kind of expected the stuff to kind of overlap. I thought there would be, to be honest, I thought some of the stuff I picked would also get picked, and there was nothing. There was no repeats. Nope. There were no Defiant Torpedoes. It was all 5. It was 15 fresh things. Everybody's top 5s were different, which was really cool and not what I expected. So definitely check that out if you can.
Yep. Real quick, Stress Free Crate. It's at the beginning of the show. You can definitely post your thoughts in it. We'll take a look at, and then in chat, and we can take a look at that. But
let us know on Twitter.
And Twitter. As we kind of wrap up the show, we should be back next week. That might be like the second to last, maybe episode of 2019. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for that. You guys know the drill. The discussion does not have to stop here. There's plenty of other avenues that we can keep this discussion alive. Facebook, Twitter is the big one. Twitter's the big one, but also Discord, which we had a good talk about Renee and Odo during the week. So
yeah, thanks everybody for watching. If you're watching, Stress Free K, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks, Stress Free K.
And,
See you guys next week.
Later.